Jimmy, I don't know whether have you and Lois heard about Lee? The SP? He's on the panel. Word yesterday was and that's all I know, really. I hadn't seen him in a while, so I don't know. Richard said he was going to try to get his sister was in the bank. So try to get hold of her. Yeah.
Okay, it's 5:31. I think we're going to go ahead and get the regular meeting of the Blinn Board of Trustees for Tuesday, August 17th started. The Texas Government Code permits this Board of Trustees to meet in a closed executive session for the following reasons, among others: to consult with the college district's attorneys on matters deemed privileged by the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct or Government Code 551.071, to deliberate regarding real property under 551.072, a prospective gift under 551.073, certain personnel matters. Oh, getting a little feedback there. Under 551.074, security devices or security audits under 551.076, and economic development negotiations under 551.087. If the board meets in closed session, we will announce the particular section under which we will be doing so prior to initiating the closed portion of the meeting. Now, trustees, we are thrilled to announce that we have students joining us tonight for the first time since February of 2020. To resume the tradition of leading us in the invocation and the pledge. I'll now turn things over to Angel Chase to lead us in the invocation.
May you please join me and bow your heads as I say this prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, I come here today to pray as we begin a new school year. We ask for your blessings on all who work and study here. May this board meeting bring success and growth for our school. and that you send us your Holy Spirit to guide and give us wisdom to understand every topic that is going to be discussed. Continue to enlighten our minds and let your love be upon us. May you bless each person who took the time to gather here today, and let your hand of protection be on them throughout the rest of the school year. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Angel. Now I'm going to turn things over to Josh Farrell to lead us in the pledge to the American and Texas flags.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thanks, guys. We really appreciate you guys being here. And by the way, they are two of our fine soccer players that are on campus early to get ready for a successful season. So thank you again. Good luck to you. Okay, we do not have anyone signed up for public comment, so we will move on past that particular portion and go to reports. Going to turn it over to Dr. Hensley for the Chancellor's Administrative Report.
Thank you, Chair Kokhorst, and good evening, trustees and everyone joining us either through our YouTube channel or in presence tonight. Trustees, we are well underway preparing for the beginning of the fall semester later this month. Faculty will begin their formal fall activities next Tuesday with faculty convocation, which will include a variety of departmental meetings and faculty workshops. On Friday, August the 27th, faculty, staff, and members of the community are invited to join us for the grand opening of the Science, Technology, Engineering, and Innovation Building at 10 a.m. That ceremony will also be live streamed on the college YouTube channel, and a bus will be available to transport guests from the Bryan campus to the ceremony here in Brenham. And then the following Monday, August the 30th, will mark the beginning of the fall semester. Now on to facilities. How exciting. Let's start with the Brenham campus. On the Brenham campus, the contractor is finalizing the punch list items on the interior of the Science, Technology, Engineering, and Innovation Building. Academic technology is setting up computer systems. Academic departments are setting up their spaces right now, and they are completing their move-in. I was over there earlier today watching them, and the landscaping around the building is in progress. I hope you've had an opportunity perhaps to drive by and you can see changes just on a daily basis that are occurring. Now, there have been some delays, trustees, in the delivery of various furniture, audiovisual, and equipment items, and Blinn's facilities and academic technology departments are working on those items. It will not interfere with our grand opening, and it will not interfere, however, with our classes. We're prepared for a little bit of delay here and there. Now, let's move on to our P3 student housing. Now, in this facility, construction has reached the top out milestone. The rough-in plumbing, the electric, and the fire sprinklers continue in Building A and are expected to begin in Building B by the end of the month. The contractors are now drying in the buildings, which includes roof trusses and decking, roofing, and building sheathing, and the brick exterior of Building A has begun. This project, trustees, does remain on schedule for completion next August, a year from now, so that August 2022. Now, at the baseball field, at the Leroy Dreyer field, the architects have completed their design documents and submitted those to the contractor for pricing. We anticipate presenting a guaranteed maximum price to you, trustees, at the September board meeting. This project is scheduled for completion for fall of 2022 semester. And then the Spencer Field block. There, the sidewalks and the light pole bases were poured last week, and the additional landscaping is taking place this week. Renovations for the football training, laundry, and locker rooms in the classroom building are nearing completion. Trustees, we do continue to conduct our repairs that followed our winter storm that we had last February. And as you know, that damaged a number of our campus facilities. So at the old main building on the Brenham campus, the contractor has provided pricing for the storm damage repair, and that figure has been approved by the insurance company. The architects also are finalizing design documents for additional renovations, and an item regarding construction manager at risk services for these renovations is on this evening's meeting agenda. At Wheeler Hall, repairs are on schedule to be completed prior to student occupancy on August the 23rd. And the contractor has completed the second and the third floors, and the first floor is scheduled to be completed this week. Now over to the Bryan campus. There, the repair work in buildings D and G are substantially complete, and the replacement furniture is scheduled to be delivered later this week. And then over to the RELLIS campus, the roof structure is being installed. The second floor deck has been poured, and half of the third floor deck has been poured. The mechanical, electrical, and plumbing rough-in is in progress on the first floor, and some of the exterior wall framing is in progress also. This facility is scheduled to open next fall of 22. Trustees, if you would bear with me for just a moment, I would like to invite Chair Kolkhorst to join me to the side of the dais as we once again have the opportunity to recognize our retirees. For the past 18 months, social distancing requirements have prevented us from welcoming our recent retirees to Blinn board meetings as we've done for years. And so we're happy to have them come and join us this evening. This month, we invited each retiree who had been unable to join us during the pandemic to come this evening. And I believe that we have two who are here at this moment. Now, it's possible we may have a few come in during the latter part of tonight's agenda. If so, Lori will let me know, and we'll pause between reports or action items to introduce them as well. Now, together, we have 7 retirees who are being recognized this month. And they have a combined total numbers of years of service at Blinn College of 175 years. 175 years. And so I would like to tell you about the 2 that we have this evening who are here. And we would then like to have them come forward, shake each trustee's hand. And then Chair Kolkhorst and I will join in the front. Trustees, if you will kind of move to the middle, and Rich Bray will take a photo for us that we can put out on social media and give them to them. And also, if they would like to say a word as they are recognized this evening, we welcome that as well. So Chair Kolkhorst, if you'll join me. Thank you. Our first retiree this evening is Thad Hill. Thad, won't you come forward, please, and just stand over there. Trustees and audience members, these are always bittersweet moments, aren't they? Because these individuals have given their careers and their life's work to Blinn College. And it is always with joy in our hearts that they're moving and transitioning on to their next part of their lives. But dadgummit, it's always hard to let them go too, because we feel their loss when they leave. And to Thad and Professor Hill, I would like to tell you that we're so glad that you could join us tonight. And I'd like to tell the audience a little bit about you. Thad retired in June of 2020. He has been at Blinn for 19 years. He was a social sciences professor here on this campus in Brenham. He joined Blinn in 2001 and served as a professor in the Division of Social Sciences throughout his career. Dean of Social Sciences Brandon Franke said the following: Thad is one of those rare professors that put their all into teaching. Their love for teaching transcends the classroom, as does Professor Hill's dedication for his students. You would often find him at a ball game cheering on a student in the same manner he would encourage them in his classroom. Professor Hill, on behalf of the Blinn College Administration and Board of Trustees, we thank you for your leadership and your service to our wonderful Blinn students. We are so proud that you could join us this evening, and we would ask the trustees to please rise. And Professor Hill, if you will just have the opportunity, I know that they would like to shake your hand and say a word to you.
Take care.
You know, I want to give you a hug, but I better not. Well, okay. So wonderful. Won't you give me a photo opportunity, and then I'll pass the mic to you? How about if you stand here in front of the chair and
Yeah. no, we-
Right. I will count to 3 and take a photo. And 1, 2, 3. And just one more time. 1, 2, 3.
And recognizing your retirement tonight, is there anything you would like to say or anyone you would like to introduce?
Thank you to everybody. I bleed Blinn blue. I've said that from day one. I've been the most blessed man I have had in my teaching career. 3 or 4 headmasters, principals, and/or in this case, chancellors. And I have been so blessed to have such wonderful people, not only as my leadership leaders, but also my colleagues. And Chancellor Hensley, you don't remember, but it was some 4 years ago that we were speaking outside. I was going through some things, and your leadership, your kindness, your professionalism, and your heart and soul really touched me that day. Thank you very much, man.
Thank you. This one I told you was a tough one. Thank you all. Again, is there anyone with you this evening that you would like to recognize? All righty.
But I do want to say thank you, Mr. Representative. You willingly were excited to help me to come into my class and speak. It never occurred because of what ended up happening 1.5 years, 2 years ago. But I really appreciate your kindness. All of the leadership here has been nothing but kind and full of candor with me, and as well as my colleagues. But to you, sir, I really, really appreciate that. And to Mr. Krausen, same thing. I came to you many times, and you were there for me at all times, and I appreciate it.
My daughters.
And sir,
My daughters loved you, so.
thank you very much, sir. And I do want to say I'm still teaching part-time. I am very blessed, and I thank you for that, ma'am. I'm at the CD campus part-time for 2 classes, and I'm teaching the dual credit in Columbus. And I thought I would die behind the desk, and COVID came along, and I'm not an electronic guy. So you all made it possible for me to have face-to-face classes. And otherwise, I would have been on full-time till I fell over at 80. But I can't thank you enough. It's just truly, truly an honor. Thank you all.
And Linda Richardson, would you please step forward? Hello, Professor. It's so lovely that you can be with us this night. Thank you so very much. Audience members and trustees. Professor Richardson retired in December 2020 after 21 years as a zoology professor on the Bryan campus. She started her Blinn career as a part-time biology instructor in 1999 and became a full-time professor in 2001. During her career, she served as a member of the T-STEM Challenge Scholarship Program, and she worked as a part-time academic advisor during the summers. Michelle McGehee, the Assistant Dean for the Division of Natural and Physical Sciences, said the following: Linda was student-oriented and always found unique ways to interact with and engage her students in biology. She thought outside the box and loved bringing new ideas into the classroom. Linda, on behalf of the Blinn administration and our entire Board of Trustees, we thank you for your service to Blinn College. And I know that the trustees would like to have the opportunity to thank you personally. So if you would work your way across the dais, we'll meet you in the middle.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. And one more time. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Thank you.
Have anything you would like to say, or anyone with you would like to introduce?
I don't have anybody with me this evening, but I'd just like to just thank Blinn and the Blinn community for all the opportunities that I was able to take part in during my tenure here. I can't imagine having been anywhere else that would have given me the opportunity to be creative and just share my passion of biology. And most of all, I think I miss my colleagues. This last year obviously has been very challenging. You know, it was very difficult leaving in the middle of the pandemic, not having seen most of my colleagues for quite some time, but I'm still in contact with them, and I'll always cherish my memories here that I've had at Blinn. And I'm not a stranger on campus, so I'll be back.
Well, on behalf of all of us, again, we're so excited for your next stage in life, and you will come back. You will not be a stranger for us ever, so come back again soon. Thank you all. So trustees, one of the trustees just asked me, do we still give them their watches for retirement and their certificate? Because they have already retired, those have already been presented to them. And tonight we're recognizing them because we're able to meet face to face again for the first time. And with that, Trustee Chair Colhorst, I return the podium to you. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you so much. So we will move to item 4B on our agenda, and we get the great privilege of hearing from Mr. Sam Summer with the Blinn College Foundation. He's going to give us a report. Sam. I know you like to talk for a long time, so everybody just kind of settle in.
That's right, buckle down. But no, first I just want to thank you all for your support of the Blinn College Foundation. I want to make sure to get that out of the way because Blinn has done that. I've been with the Blinn College Foundation board since 2014, and it truly is a remarkable partnership that's only strengthened. So do appreciate that. We were last before you, I think, presenting in October of 2019. I think we were actually at the library on that occasion. Certainly things changed. But we did want to come annually. COVID kind of put that out of the way for a little bit, but we're glad to be back. This August timing works great for us. I hope it works great for y'all. So hopefully we can see you on kicking off a school year every time. Let's see. So I'm hopeful that most of you know a lot of our Blinn College Foundation members. The picture that is up here is actually a little outdated. It's pre-pandemic. We have just again started to get back together in person as well, but we were also doing Zoom meetings and on the phone. But I did list the 21-22 foundation board listed on the right-hand part of that screen. And I hope you at least notice a few names of people you recognize. We're very excited to have Mr. Bohart and Mr. Mosier join this year to help strengthen that board, and we're excited to have them. It's a great group. We couldn't be more excited about the people that we have involved because they do bring a lot of excitement to everything we do. Now, in terms of what we do, I mean, the headline on this slide is really says it all. We have a commitment to enhance Blinn College. We are trying to do support. And I kind of listed out a few of the ways that are really our main focus. The first on there I wanted to start with is personal financial support. We have 100% participation amongst our board members at giving their personal money to Blinn College. So everyone has done that in some form or fashion. That's over $250,000 collectively. And with Mr. Bohart joining, we know that number is only going to go up from there. So we're very excited about that. Obviously, the second one is without comparison. Fundraising is what a foundation does. It's a big part. And when I started in 2014, I think the amount of assets the foundation had was 9.6 million. Recently, we crossed the $31 million mark. Might actually be 32 here pretty soon if the market keeps going up. So it's tremendous growth. That does include the $10 million that was transferred over from the college that had existed, originally before the foundation was set up. But even backing that out, it's obviously a very much growth over a short period of time. Again, that was from 2014. And it also excludes the millions of dollars that were spent. That is our current assets, not accounting for what we had spent. And so from a fundraising aspect, I think Susan will get into that a little bit more. The next aspect, asset management, financial oversight. I thought the trustees would be real interested to hear how we've been performing over the last year, and then particularly since the Blinn College funds transferred over. And so this fiscal year, which is from September 1 of 2020, to actually had our advisor run it through 8/13. So just a few days ago, our rate of return has been 16%, just short of 16%. Since the Blinn funds came over, which was around Christmas Eve in 2019, the foundation is up 38%. So it's just short of 2 years. This is all great numbers. When the markets are going up, everybody looks good, obviously. But we spend a lot of time at each meeting talking about risk and making sure to protect kind of on the downside. Obviously, as a endowment setup, you want to invest for the long term. You've got an infinite horizon. So we are able to take advantage of being aggressive in the markets, but we want to protect from the downturn. And when COVID hit in 2020, we had a real life example. You can put all the models you want out there, but when something happens, that's when you get to see, if things behave the way you want them to. And I'm very pleased to say that when the COVID hit, we did have a lower downturn than our benchmark by about 3 or 4%. So it was very favorable. Everything that we've been modeling and working on with our advisor works. So we're really excited that, we're diverse and we minimize that downside risk to protect the funds that are supporting Blinn College. And so on the last point, I won't dwell on it much, but community awareness. Obviously, COVID made it very different, but I'm hopeful that you see these same faces that are on the slide and those names at all the events. I know when I go to a Blinn College event, it seems like we always have someone there from the foundation. And so just having those boots on the ground and active participation is a lot of what we do to support you here at the college. And so turning to what is really the most important part, I can talk all about the board responsibilities, but it just would not be possible without having extremely great leadership from our foundation staff. And so while our board couldn't be here, with Delta going around, we felt it's probably best to minimize the folks coming out tonight. The entire foundation staff is here. I'd like to introduce them all. We have Sharon Lucanis, our administrative assistant. And we have Phil Shackelford, who's our associate director. And last but certainly not least, Susan Myers, our executive director. And at this time, I would like to let her come up and talk just a little bit more about our operational successes in fundraising.
Thank you, Sam. I'd like to say hello to the Chairman Colcourse and the Board of Trustees and Chancellor Hensley. Thank you for having us here today. On behalf of my staff, as we just said, we are honored to be here to give you a recap of what we feel are the highlights of the last year or the last 15 months or so. But anyway, the most important thing to Sharon and I is that the Brenham office was open entirely through the whole entire COVID event. And we found that that was really good because we found there are a lot of people who just stepped in who normally wouldn't have stepped in. And we began relationships with them. You'll see how this turned out in the very, very end. So 2020 was the 30th anniversary of the foundation. And we had big goals. We were going to have a big gala. Well, COVID took that away, but we had two other major goals. The first one was to start fundraising for an emergency fund for our students. And we began raising funds. We raised a total of $46,000. And we put a process in that kids could apply. We had alumni board members and foundation board members review those applications. And we've given out so far about $26,000 for kids who had emergency situations, and they were reviewed. And anyway, we're very proud of that particular aspect. We're going to continue that fundraising part of it, so we always have an emergency funds for kids to turn to. Our second goal was to actually have 30 endowed scholarships, knowing that our biggest scholarship amount that we ever raised in 1 year was 13. 30 was the stretch. This year we have 33 endowed scholarships. Our last scholarships, I know some of you know this, but a gentleman gave me some money because his father went to Blinn in 1906. Anyway, that was pretty incredible. But anyway, we had 33 endowed scholarships. We're very proud of the diversity of those scholarships. We also really focused on the capital funds. We had two really large gifts. One of them was from Sally Blackie and the Betts Wood Foundation. They pledged $500,000 for the STEI building. And we had Ann Gardner Aarons, who pledged $375,000 for the name of the new ag facility. Those two people are friends of the foundation. They have talked to me personally about giving some more funds once this gets up and going. So we're very excited about that. But our last big donation was from the Duddleston Foundation. It's ironic how we met, but we met and we ended up getting $100,000 for workforce. And if we handle that correctly, they said we'll be getting that every single year, which I think will help all of us. So those are kind of the highlights that we've had at the foundation here over the last year, little over a year. Any questions? Thank you.
Very good.
And I'll just close by saying you do need to ask her for some of those details, because what Susan does so amazingly well is she represents Blinn 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it'd be surprising, you know, where she's formed relationships and generated some really important and big things at Blinn. So thank you again, all of our staff. Thank you.
Great job, Sam and Susan and staff. Thank you guys for what you do. Y'all are doing a great job. Keep it up. So we will move to item C, under reports, the presentation of financial statement package for the period ending July 31st, 2021. And I believe Mr. Richard Cervantes is going to give that presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Hensley, members of the board. Mr. Chairman, as you said, this report is through July, the 11th month of the fiscal year. That means we're 92% of the way through the year. Our revenue for this year, Mr. Chairman, is at $129 million. And our expenses are about $94 million, which leaves us a net of $35 million through July. I have to say that a good portion of that money is the federal money. 22 of that $23 million is coming from the federal government. But as I said to you at the master plan, even if we had not had that money, we would still be doing well. When we compare our position this year to last year, our revenues were almost $15 million more. Our expenditures, on the other hand, went the opposite direction, which is what we like, $4 million less than the year before. And when we compare our net position, our net operating changes to last year, we are $18.5 million more than what we had last year at this point in time. Our revenue comparisons by source we still have the anomaly because the percentages are thrown off, and that far right, you'll see the other, and that's federal money. Compared to last year, you could see very little last year and compared to what we have this year. However, tuition and fees and auxiliaries have been impacted beyond that. And they're showing a little bit less than what we had the year before, and that's still accurate. When we compare our tuition and fees revenue to our budget, we very conservatively budgeted a little bit over $58 million. To date, we're at 67, or 116% over what we had budgeted. Our tuition revenue is down by $3.1 million. All of the large areas, they are the areas that we focus on, the in-district, out-of-district, and out-of-state, all of those are down. However, we were able to capture that in our HERF money and get reimbursed for that. Fee revenue also the general fee is down also. The lab course fees, however, offset that and to a certain extent. And our workforce continues to do very well compared to last year. Our housing, our food service revenue compared to budget, we budgeted $9.3 million. Our total revenue through July is 7.2. And so we're still at 77.2%. We clearly will not hit 100%. All of our auxiliaries are down $2.9 million. Housing, food service, bookstore, parking, the big ones are all down. Again, we'll be able to use and have used our HERF money to reimburse ourselves, the federal money. Our variances right now, our expenses, $3.7 million less than what we had last year. Our debt service is more because of the debt issuance of 2020. And our E&G expenses, as we would expect, some of those travel expenses, utilities are all down compared to what we had the year before. We've been operating from a distance. Our debt service, and this is distorted too for a number of reasons, but debt service is at 9%. That actually is pretty high. We also look at our salaries and wages. Travel is going to be less, consumables is going to be less and utilities are going to be less because we've been operating a large part from a distance. And when we compare our sales expense by category, it's also distorted because we did not budget R&R out of this category. As you can see on that third item there, we didn't budget anything this year. Operating expenses comparison by function. Many of these are down for the same reasons that we're not. The big one that I would say is travel, that we're not traveling, and the consumables are down. When we look at the cash and refunds in July, Mr. Chairman, we received from students close to about $10 million. And the bulk of that is in the student financial aid, student payments, $10.2 million, but we also received some money, reimbursed ourselves, financial aid, $517,000, a little bit of CARES money that we brought in as well as spent. And then we issued a student refunds about $734,000 in the month of July. Our other cash receipts in July were a little bit over $8 million. State appropriations, $2.3 million. We drew down because we have these capital projects out there, $3.4 million. We did draw a little bit down for HERF institutional, $1.2 million, a little bit of insurance from the weather that we had, the storm that we had, almost $1 million, and grants and contracts, and interest keeps hanging in there very small. Our use of cash, as you would expect, payroll continues to be the bulk of it, $5.2 million, and our construction activity, 3.7, and paying our vendors $2.8 million in accounts payable. So in summary, we had a $10 million that came in from students. We received another $8.1 million from other sources, but we used $11.7 million, which left us at a net $6.4 million just for July, and that remains in the bank. Our unrestricted cash and cash equivalents, I said this during the master plan workshop, that we had anticipated back in the spring that we would hit 121 million. Well, here we are in July and we're at 122 million. Some of that capital reserves, the operating reserves, and even our technology reserves are still all in place. We've been able to add some stuff, add some reserves, that is. Higher education emergency relief funds, we've combined these all into, because we had 3 different issuances, but we've combined them all into one so that we can capture them all here. Most of you'll see the awards at the top, the $31.3 million for student awards, but we've only spent $14 million. I'm being told that our expectation is that we'll have a lot of that spent for the fall, but clearly there will probably be some money left over for the spring too, as far as student awards. We have not spent some of the institutional funding for the last go round. So you can see somewhere around $15 million that's still remaining from that. We'll have we have a plan. We'll be able to knock down most of that. And we're looking for all the different areas that we're going to be able to do that for. So right now it looks pretty good. Institutional strengthening, as I said to Mr. Moser at a luncheon recently, the money just keeps on coming. We got another $1.5 million that came in about 3 weeks ago for institutional. That's the difference between what we've received and what we've expended. We haven't begun to figure out how we're going to do that, but we'll come up with a plan how to get that taken care of. This is a snapshot pie chart. You can see at the very top that we have received a total of $70.4 million from the federal government. The pie chart on the left shows the cost that we've reimbursed or we've been able to spend. Student awards, $14 million is the biggest one. You see the $2.6 million that the refunds that we issued in spring of 2020, we were able to recover that back. COVID cost the PPE, and then the revenue loss as a really large one, $15.3 million that we've been able to recover through this money. We issued technology expenses, $2.2 million, and we still have some money left over, and those are what's on the right side. That concludes my presentation, Mr. Chairman. I'll stand for any questions.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Cervantes? Okay, doesn't sound like it. Thank you so much for the report. Moving on to item D in the report, institutional enrollment report for summer 2 session. Dr. Becky McBride.
Good evening. Tonight I have the pleasure to share with you our summer 2 numbers. One thing I'd like to note is that in 2021, summer 2 was all online. For summer of 21, summer 2 had multiple modalities, which included online and in person. As you can see on this slide, we have our total enrollment of 3,920 students. Credit hours were at 14,929, and our contact hours were 266,896. On this slide, I have a breakdown of campus and how courses were offered. Again, distance education were all of our courses for last summer, and this summer we had a breakdown by modality because we were able to offer courses in person once again. Are there any questions at all?
So did you offer summer 2 courses on campus? Is that what you just said?
Correct, in 21, yes, sir.
Okay. Any ideas on fall? Where we stand enrollment for fall?
Fall, we're hovering around 10% less than last year. And we still have a full 2 weeks of something we discussed today. We are 2 weeks out. Today is our last day to enroll, and it's full steam ahead.
I might add just a touch to that if I might. Trustees, our fall enrollment is down. I anticipate it will be down as compared to last year and previous years. The numbers right now as of today were about 21% down from census date last year. And we're about 11% down from this date and time a year ago. We do anticipate getting more enrollment in, but I do not anticipate that we will get in much better shape. So I think we're going to hover around a 20% reduction, which is what we budgeted for last year, you'll recall, and anticipated, but we did not come in at 20% reduction. We came in around a 6%. So staff are actively working in every way possible to increase the numbers, but I think we should all expect a decrease between anywhere from 10 to 20% would be my guess for the fall semester.
How about housing? Do we have a waiting list? Are we full on that?
Housing is down as well.
We don't have a waiting list?
No waiting list. We have plenty of room and we're working that heavily as well.
Do we anticipate?
Keep you very
any-
posted on these.
Do we anticipate any kind of challenges with Mill Creek dorm or as far as occupancy and so forth?
Mr. Cervantes and I have discussed that. Would you like to respond, Mr. Cervantes?
Of all the dorms, Mr. Moser, I think Mill Creek is actually doing the best, over 80% occupancy. They budgeted less than for this upcoming year than what they had in previous years. They had budgeted 85% occupancy. So they're pretty close to getting where they need to be able to do what they need to do. So they're in pretty good shape relative to the other dorms.
Dr. Hensley, question for you as you've talked about our enrollment being down, everything else. Do you have any comparisons for the other community colleges, what they're experiencing, so we get a perspective?
I'm so glad you asked that question. I should have addressed it a moment ago. You know, it's a discussion point every day among the college chancellors and presidents. By far, the far majority are down across the board. There are a few, mostly in the larger metropolitan areas, where they seem to be stable or a little bit of an increase. But of the 50 community colleges, now I haven't checked last week, so I will speak to the week before. All but 3 were down. Now that can change, so please don't, put that in the paper, please, Josh, back there. Because it changes on a day-by-day basis, but the trend is definitely down across the board.
Okay, thank you so much, Becky.
Thank you.
All right, we will move to item 5 on the agenda, consent items. All items listed in this portion of the agenda are considered to be routine by the Board of Trustees and will be enacted upon one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a trustee so requests, in which event the item will be removed from consent and considered in discussion and possible action. Trustees receive agenda materials in advance of the meeting to prepare for the business to be conducted. First item, approval of the minutes for June 15th regular meeting. Mr. Ted Hayasky, or do we just go ahead and? All right, well, I would like to go ahead and I'm looking for a motion to approve all consent items.
I move that we adopt the consent agenda as printed.
Motion made by Randy Wells. Ms. Teddy Bain, second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Consent item is approved. Now we will move to number 6 in the agenda, discussion and possible action items. 6A is adoption of a resolution for the 2021 tax rate. I believe Mr. Cervantes is going to take that up for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Hensley, members of the board. The Budget Audit Investment Finance Committee met last week along with a few additional board members. I have narrowed the presentation down as a result of what was a very good discussion and healthy discussion. I did want to remind the board that some of the terms have changed from previous years. The effective rate, they used to call this the effective rate, which is now the no new revenue rate. I guess it describes it better. And the rollback rate is now called the voter approval rate. So that voter approval rate is anything at that rate or above would require us to go out to the taxpayers, to the voters, and get their approval on it. We received the information from Washington County Appraisal District, and at the very end of July, we have until September 30th to act on setting tax rates. Our current rate right now is 0.0560 for every $100 worth of valuation. You can see that 0.0560 is above both the no new revenue rate as well as the voter approval rate. And as I indicated earlier, that would mean that we're going to have to come down on that rate, which we have decided to do that. So yeah, the board has options that are available to them. One is to adopt a resolution tonight to set the tax rate for 2021. That in particular is for the no new revenue rate, or the board could choose to go above the no new revenue rate. And at that, if you were to do that, that would mean that you would have to hold these different future meetings and announce dates, times, and locations for public hearings and adoptions of the tax rate at some point when you would adopt that. The far right shows what I suggested. That far right column, the 0.0560 is where we stand right now. Using the appraised values that have gone out there, that would generate about $171 million. We really did not have much consideration of that at the committee, actually focused on the other two options. And the voter approved rate had some really healthy discussions of possibly going up to that. If we did option 2, right below that rate, we would be able to generate an additional 76,000. Option 1 was the focal point where we would not generate any additional revenue, but the rate would have to come down. And that's ultimately where we ended up at, that the administration and the committee were recommending that 0.0513, which would not generate any additional revenue for Blinn College. I did want to show the board, because it is interesting to me, and I'm a numbers person, that if you, that 0.0513, which we're getting ready to adopt, if you go all the way back to 2006, which was when that board at that time tried to go above the ceiling and adopt a tax rate of 0.08 on the far right, where that arrow is, but that was defeated. And they had to take what was considered then the effective rate, 0.0513, which is where we're at right now, or what we're proposing. So by this action, we're going to be pretty close to where we were about 15 years ago. So Mr. Chairman, just to summarize, we are making that recommendation that there be no new revenue, that we adopt a no new revenue rate of 0.0513. And we will need a motion to approve the rate from the board.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions from the group about the recommendation from Blinn College? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve and adopt a resolution to set a tax rate of 0.0513, which is the no new net revenue rate. Moved by Chair.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Mosier. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Board.
Thank you. Item 6B, authorization for the administration to negotiate and execute a contract for construction manager at risk services for the old main building in the on the Blinn campus. Mr. Cervantes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Feldhake is going to make that presentation.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Hensley, members of the board. I'm here to present the agenda item 6B, which is requesting authorization for administration to negotiate and execute a contract for construction manager at risk services related to the additional improvements and repairs in the old main building on the Blinn campus. If you recall, earlier this summer, we talked about that. The board approved the project where we would spend $1.6 million of HERF funds and $2 million of unrestricted cash from the college to perform these additional repairs and renovations in the old main building. On July 22nd, the college received 5 proposals in response to this request for qualifications for CMAR services. The committee reviewed and scored those proposals. And based on the committee's scores and of the proposals, the administration recommends that the board authorize administration to negotiate and execute a contract with Madison Construction of Bryan, Texas, for these CMAR services related to the additional improvements and repairs at the old main building on the Blinn campus. Again, this is an overall project, $3.6 million. $1.6 million of that is through the higher education emergency relief funds for the HVAC upgrades, the allowable expense from that, as well as $2 million in the college's unrestricted cash. Upon completion of the pre-construction services and completion of the design documents, which we are almost done with, the CMAR will establish a guaranteed maximum price, and we will bring that back to the board. Again, funds for this project are from HERF as well as unrestricted cash. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
If the board recalls, that extra $2 million, since we were going to have the building shut down anyway, it was just determined it was a good time since this renovation was in the master plan anyway to get it accomplished at that time. So any other questions for Mr. Feldhoff? If not, I would entertain a motion that the board authorize the administration to negotiate and execute a contract with Madison Construction LP for CMAR services related to additional improvements and repairs in the old main building on the Blinn campus. Ms. Payne? Motion? Ms. Payne? Looking for a second?
Second.
Randy Wells. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item 6C, authorization for the administration to negotiate and execute a contract for district-wide copy and print services. Mr. Cervantes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Hensley, members of the board. In June of 2021, the Blinn College District issued a request for proposals for district-wide copy and print services. In response to that RFP, we received 3 vendors that submitted proposals. Based on the recommendation of the committee, the administration recommends that the board authorize the administration to negotiate and execute a contract with FedEx and Print Services Incorporated for district-wide copy and print services. The funds for these services were actually included in the approved fiscal year 21-22 budget. They're spread out in the consumables of these individual accounts. And so we're looking for a recommendation, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions?
I just have a question. Was Copy Stop the previous one we were using?
Correct.
FedEx is new, or the
FedEx is new,
Okay.
correct.
I would entertain a motion that the Board of Trustees authorize the administration to negotiate and execute a contract with FedEx Office and Print Services, Inc. for district-wide copy and print services.
I'll make that motion. I move that we select FedEx Office and Print Services, Inc. for our copying services.
Trustee Krause. Second by Ms. Bain. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, now it takes us to item 7 on the agenda, executive session. It is 6:28, and we're going to go into executive session.